is recycle all of this carbon and get it into that decomposition cycle, because the carbon is solar energy stored in biomass. So the feeder gate is on pulleys so we can raise it and lower it, because this bedding pack builds up, 3-4 feet deep, and so we just keep lifting it up through that hay feeding cycle. The cows, of course, eat through it, and they tromp out the oxygen, so this whole bedding pack is actually fermenting. So when it's 0 outside, this is nice and warm. It's 50 degrees. The cows are lounging on a nice, electric, not electric blanket, but a nice, fermenting blanket. And the fermentation is making molds and fungi, which exude up through and keep them healthy from, mastitis, coccidiosis, and all sorts of maladies. You notice that it's cantilevered, so they can't back up and poop into the box. This is part of sanitation and hygiene. A lot of people say as organic farmers, the men grow ponytails and wear sandals and run naked through the woods on moonlit nights, and the women don't shave their legs, and everybody just kind of sits back and says, woo, let nature take its course. Well, if we're not going to do the negative stuff that makes the meat so bad it kills all the bugs, we have to institute positive, hygienic, sanitary modeling to compensate for the pathogenicity that would otherwise occur. And so if we're not going to use the Ivomec and the things that make the meat so bad it kills all the bugs, we've got to institute positive sanitary modeling to compensate. Now, as we build this bedding, we add whole-shelled corn to it. The cows then tromp in all that corn. It gets all mixed up in that fermenting pack, and the corn then ferments so that when the cows come out in the spring, we turn in the pigorators. Now, all pigs have a big sign on their forehead, "Will work for corn," all right? And so the pigs then go in and seat this fermented corn in the bedding pack and stir it all up like aeration, aerobic, okay, pig aeration, like Jane Fonda aerobics. Jane Fonda, left, 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 always left, left, left. So that grows on you a little bit, all right? So you've got this aerobic compost now occurring, and the pigs are doing all the work. Why is it that farms don't like to do large-scale composting? Materials handling. You've seen those windrow compost piles, all that big heavy metal and machinery to do all that aeration and stuff. When we let animals do the work, suddenly the profit potential becomes size neutral, because you don't have to recapitalize the infrastructure that rots, rusts, and depreciates. So you can make the same profit on 2 hogs as 5 hogs as 100 hogs. And so the scalability of the infrastructure leaves the picture, suddenly the profit potential is completely size neutral. The other thing that this does, of course, is that it fully honors and respects the pigness of the pig. We're not asking those pigs to do something they don't like to do. We're providing them a habitat that allows them to fully express their physiological distinctiveness. You see, we live in a culture today, our Western compartmentalized, individualized, disconnected culture. We live in a culture today in which our U.S. does not ask the question, how do we make a happy pig? You won't see that on any research papers. All you see is, how can we grow them faster, fatter, bigger, cheaper? That's the only question. And we intuitively know that that's not a noble goal. If it were, we'd all aspire to be the fattest person in the room. That's why the average NFL player is dead at 57. Because when your neck is bigger than your head, you're a freak of nature and it weeds you out. So our powers that be now basically view these animals and plants as just inanimate piles of protoplasmic structure to be manipulated however cleverly hubris can imagine to manipulate them. And I would suggest that a culture that views its life from that kind of disrespectful, dishonoring, manipulative paradigm will soon view its citizens the same way, and other cultures the same way. Wow. Suddenly, we've just created an ethic, haven't we? We suddenly realize that the sacredness of our culture and the respect that our culture receives from around the world stems directly from our honoring and respecting the least of these, because that is the keystone for how we respect and honor the greatest of these. If we're going to have a culture that honors and respects the Maryness of Mary and the Tomness of Tom, it starts with respecting the pigness of the pig. That's where it starts. So these pigs just go right through, you know, and they love to do this. They're in hog heaven. They turn all this into wonderful, wonderful compost. Why? That's value. And you know, the neat thing is the IRS hasn't learned how to tax these yet. Now, you can stockpile these till the cows come home and nobody asks, you know. The point is here that our weak link is between our ears. This is not dirty money, and it doesn't have to be laundered, okay? But our weak link is always between our ears. You know, it's not somebody else's genetics, it's not somebody else's problem, it's not even Washington's problem. And I would suggest that here tonight, one of the themes that we need to deal with is we can solve our own problems right here. We don't need a bunch of big government, we don't need a bunch of big programs, we don't need a bunch of big grant money. I think there's plenty of creativity right here in this room to sit down and have a dialogue of how do we relocalize and create food security and transparency and land healing stewardship right here, right inside, internally. We don't have to outsource that decision making. We can do it right here.
The little last bird sing the prettiest songs. The little last bird sing the prettiest songs.